Being called to order. This is funny. It says turn off your cell phones and pagers while the meeting's in session. We don't really need to do that anymore. So we'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We can bring up that illustrious flag. And it has not arrived for me. Here it is. In the breeze. And we'll start off with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty
and justice for all.
All right. Great. Bring it back. All right. So just to recap, it's been a month. So we're doing a virtual meeting in accordance with the emergency amendment made by Governor Newsom that allows for virtual meetings of councils and other public bodies. So we will be doing the meeting virtually. Just to note, people are in their own homes. You've got my beautiful closet back here, and Rachel's in her backyard. Madeline somewhere with a nice painting. People are allowed. We will allow council members or any member of our staff to turn off the camera if they'd like to, but they will remain in the meeting. If a council member leaves the room or leaves the meeting, they will note that. That will be noted in the minutes as well. So just if you see us turn off, we'll still be listening and participating in the meeting. It's just, maybe our dog came up or our kids came in the room or something like that, and we got to pause for a second. So we're doing that. Secondly, there's the potential to get Zoom bombed. This has happened throughout the county, and we want to make sure that if that does happen, we'll shut down the entire feed and try to restart the meeting. If we are unable to restart, we will start it at a different time. And so if we stop the meeting will be stopped. There will be no further discussion or action taken during that interim period. Finally, if you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand at the time that the meeting item comes up that you'd like to make a comment on. Don't do it physically. We cannot see you, but do it virtually. If you're calling in on the phone, you can press *9 and that will raise your hand in the Zoom chat. You can also submit written public comment, which will be read by Latanya. She's an excellent reader of public comment. And the same rules will apply. Latanya will have 3 minutes to read through your comment. So if you write us a book, we'll maybe get through the introduction. And that's about it. For writing a public comment, you can submit it from now, the beginning of the meeting, until the time that public comment period ends, basically. And we will go ahead and read that into the record as well. All right, I think that pretty much covers it, unless there's other things that people would like me to address. We'll move on to a roll call just to see who's here. Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind leading us in that.
Yes. Vice Mayor Hunley.
Here.
Councilmember.
Did you say me? Present.
Yes. Councilmember Agramonte.
Here.
Councilmember Cook.
Here.
Thank you.
I'm also here.
Oh, Mayor Harvey. I'm sorry.
All good. Present. Great. Report on closed session. We have not had closed session yet. We will be having one after the meeting, but no report now. And if we could go ahead and get an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ooh, second coming in hot from Councilmember Agramonte, and we'll go ahead for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Henley.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte.
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
And last but not least, Mayor Harvey.
Yes, thank you. All right. I appreciate it. Unanimous vote on the agenda. That tends to happen. We'll move on to the comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It is recommended that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less under state law, unless otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act. The merits of the matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the City Council at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for council consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the mayor, please begin by stating and spelling your name, and we'll have a 3-minute timer. So if, as you're making your comment, I I interrupt you and I give you the 1 minute warning and a 30-second warning. I'm not trying to be rude or break up your train of thought or anything. I'm just trying to let you know you got a little bit less time left. So, maybe wrap it up. I'll go ahead and get my stopwatch ready here, and we'll go ahead and open up the floor for public comment. I don't have my gavel. It hurts me greatly, but I'm going to go ahead and open up with the magic clap. Here we go. So we have anybody rising for public comment, raising their hand? I'm seeing nobody. Do we have any written general public comment, Latanya?
No, Mayor Harvey.
Beautiful. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Moving on right along to meeting dedications. Do we have any meeting dedications today?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a meeting dedication for Marcy Waldron. Born 1951 and unfortunately passed away July 2nd, 2020, leaving behind her husband, Dave Waldron, Marcy's cousins, and Dave's 6 siblings. Marcy in 2015 was an Alcaldesa. And here in Sonoma, she was an unbelievable volunteer with Lulu's Kiwanis Community Center. I served with her on that board, Impact 100, Wilmar, Meals on Wheels, Teen Center, Pets Lifeline, and Vintage House. And if that wasn't enough, when she lived in Petaluma, she was with Hospice, Chamber of Commerce Downtown Association's Visitors Program, and she received 2 honors, Petaluma's Good Egg, and also Woman of the Year. So that's pretty funny. So I just wanted to also say that Marcy, of course, was a child. She was diagnosed, I believe, at 3 with diabetes, and it has been with her. She's been, it was her, her malady, I guess, for many years. She did have a transplant, pancreas transplant in her late 40s, which was, of course, was a life-saving. And there was also a second kidney donor waiting in the wings, but unfortunately her health was not good enough. So she was a pretty amazing lady here in Sonoma. Not, well, she's very typical of wonderful volunteers. And I'm sure that many of you have run into her. So to her family, David, her husband, her brother, I have to get his name right, Douglas Fenn Wilson, and he's an artist in Glen Ellen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
A kind tribute. I love the Petaluma Good Egg. That's a wonderful word. So great. That's beautiful. I appreciate the tributes. And thank you, Madeline, for always kind of leading the way with the meeting dedications. It's quite nice. We'll move on to presentations. So we have a Celebrate Sonoma presentation for certification of recognition of honor for Geraldine Gary Rosemary of Broadway Quilts. And just to remind the public, this is this Celebrate Sonoma program started last year under Councilmember Harrington, then Mayor Harrington. And it's used to kind of celebrate individuals in our community that don't necessarily always get recognized, and to celebrate the wonderful people that we have in Sonoma. And it's very much kind of like the Good Egg program. It's just to kind of say hooray and celebrate who we have here and the great work that they do. So I'm going to turn it over to Madeline because this is her nomination. And thank you so much.
Thank you so
Madeline,
much. Yes.
Council member, I'm going to promote Jerry at this time, so she's part of
great.
the.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
I apologize, Jerry. I forget your name wrong.
Okay, she should be coming in anytime.
And here she is.
She is.
She's in, but she's muted.
She should be able to unmute herself now.
Jerry, if you can unmute yourself and you have a camera, we'd love to see you too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I just unmuted myself.
Oh, great. We can hear you. Yeah.
Now let's see if I can make the camera work. Aha. It keeps popping up and down. Oops.
There
Okay.
she is.
Karen.
All right.
We'll sort of have a face.
Hi,
Thank you.
Jerry.
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
Bye.
Hi. Well, so it was just the other day I spoke to Jerry and I said, it's so lovely in here. And I said, you should let people just stroll through because it's so beautiful. And I decided and said, oh, maybe that's not a good idea because she's limiting, the people that go in there. And I said to her, I only knew how to do three things: a hem, a button, and now I forgot the third thing. I forget, but I never was able to sew. But I want to let you know, I spoke with Darlene Ford the other day, and I said, Darlene, we're gonna honor Jerry, and she goes, I'm the one that told you. So I'm sorry, Darlene, I forgot all about that. But Jerry Rosemurgy is a 30-year resident of Sonoma who has been sewing her entire life and quilting for 17 years. Like everyone, she was going crazy without a fabric store in Sonoma and having to drive out of town for supplies. When she found a great space near Broadway Market, she decided to open up her own shop. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. Now, I think, Jerry, you partnered with Eric Jackson from the Community Center. He helped you do the wonderful things that you did, which, of course, I see that it was a distribution of over 2,300 masks. And there were 20 organizations, to name a few, Whole Foods, Lalou's, Weinberg Post Office, St. Leo's, Yountville Veterans Home, Sonoma Valley Fire, Broadway Market, SOS 100, Lalou's 100, Social Advocates for Youth 150, Sunrise Villa Sonoma 155, to just name a few, Jerry, of the wonderful the recipients. They're so happy, and unfortunately I'm told that some of the letters are not showing, although I've seen them because I got copies of emails. So I'm sorry, that didn't work. But one thing I wanted to say is it was amazing, Jerry. In the beginning of this, people are wondering where to get these masks, and of course you jumped right in and your volunteers jumped in. Do you think you could share what the process was for everybody?
Yeah, well, so I think we all were in that position. What do we do and how do we do it? And for all of us, what we know we can do is sew. And people were saying, we were getting messages from doctors and nurses and firemen and people saying we need masks. And so I just sent out an email to my group and said, just start making masks. We'll figure it out and how to distribute them. And actually, Christina Tierney with the city was very, very helpful with that. I could just give her bulk amounts of masks, and she was getting them out to people. Eric was also getting a lot of masks out to people, and I think by the end we were close to 4,000 masks between the community center and the shop here. So I mean, it was really just big-hearted quilters and sewists that were really eager to just lend a hand.
Thank you, Jerry. Would anyone on the council have any comments? Share some thoughts?
I'd like to comment. Oh,
Go ahead, Amy, if you want to go for it.
oh, okay. I was just gonna say, not only is everything you did amazing with masks, I just wanted to share with you during the quarantine. I have a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, started 13 at this year, and she got really into sewing. And one of the only things we could do is go to your store. And I sent her in there alone to try and keep down the number of people. And you totally helped her, and you got her set up. And she came home and she made her own dress and put a zipper on it and the whole thing. And, just for being a resource. And so just your every day is a resource. And thank you so much for jumping in with your amazing mask project.
Thank you.
I'll go. Jerry, I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting yet, maybe just in passing, but and I haven't been able to get to your store, but my mother and my grandmother, I come from a long line of sewers. It has temporarily stopped with me, but it's on my list of things to learn and maybe come talk to you about it. But I knew that the mask making effort was big, but I didn't even realize how big it was. And it was amazing to see it sort of organically erupt from the community. And I thank you for being the perfect person, the perfect position to get something like that going. And I think it not only brought something to hundreds, thousands of people to keep them safe, but I know that when I saw things about all the masks that were being made and given out, it lifted my spirits. And I think it really encouraged a lot of other people to figure out what special gift they had to give if they couldn't sew. So thank you so much for finding a way to be helpful and to give back during this very difficult time.
Thank you.
And Mayor Harvey, I'll go. This is David Cook. Yeah, thank you. 4,000 masks, it's huge. I've talked to a lot of seamstresses and know how hard it is to make. And I just love parts like this when the community comes together. So yeah, thank you. And this is well deserved. And thank you, Councilmember Agamonte, for bringing this forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Reflect the comments of both of all of our council members here. It's really wonderful to see, when there's ever those crises in Sonoma, and we've been through a few lately. It's just amazing to see who steps up and how everything comes together. And I knew about the community center masks. I didn't necessarily know how they were being made, and so it's wonderful to hear. 4,000 masks. Wow, that's really incredible, and what a service to the community. And just following your passion and seeing where it leads you. It's just incredible. So thank you so much for all your hard work. And Madeline, thank you so much for bringing Jerry on to Celebrate Sonoma, and absolutely well deserved. And I look forward to it, to the future of what you'll do in this community. And glad we have a fabric store here.
So Kathy, should I be showing a certificate, or should we wait for other comments?
Do we have other people here to comment on this item in the attendees list? I don't see anybody raising their hand.
Okay, well, I know that there were letters sent. I don't know, I directed them to send them to the city clerk sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I did a quick search and it came up in my spam filter. There was one from the Sonoma Valley Fire and Rescue Authority. Thank you. And I'll forward.
Okay.
Everyone.
Thank you. And also, I know that SOS sent a thank you letter, and just to you, Jerry, because of because it was such a wonderful gesture, and it was something that was really needed. And the best part is they were all beautiful. That's, and you see them around town. So I do have a certificate for you that I'll deliver personally tomorrow. And it's City of Sonoma Certificate of Recognition, Geraldine Jerry Rosemurgy Day, August 3rd, 2020. I, Logan Harvey, Mayor of the City of Sonoma, do hereby proclaim August 3rd as Geraldine Jerry Rosemurgy Day in the city. Your contribution to our community is recognized and much appreciated. Presented this third day of August 2020. And if you'd like, thank you, Jerry. Would you like to share anything more?
Well, the one thing I would like to suggest, because everybody's always asking for a way that they can help, is that coming in March of next year, we didn't have our quilt show this year because it was canceled, obviously. But coming up in March, we sponsor a quilt show, and it's held at Vintage House. And when you come to the quilt show and you pay $5, all of the money goes to Vintage House. So if you want to come and see some wonderful quilts and you want to support Vintage House, look forward to that coming up in March of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And I'll be coming by tomorrow
with
your award. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Oh, that's so nice. All right, so we're moving on to item 3.2, presentation regarding landlord tenant eviction prevention, rent repayment mediation services by Jan Dowdy, Executive Director, Recourse Mediation Service.
And Mayor Harvey, I'd like to ask Erica Jacobs, our Senior Management Analyst, to introduce this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Harvey and council members and all. I believe it was in May when council was adopting the eviction protection ordinance that staff was initially asked to look into mediation services that could potentially be hired or partnered with by the city to help out with tenants who may be facing the difficult task of repaying rent once the eviction measures were expired. We reached out and looked into several different services, but ended up connecting with the Redwood Empire Conflict Resolution Service, or Recourse Mediation Services. They're based in Santa Rosa, and they have been the official landlord-tenant mediator for the Sonoma County Superior Court in unlawful detainer cases for about 25 years or more. Jan can probably clarify that. But Recourse has provided a proposal for Sonoma, a quote for up to $25,000 of mediation services that would cover 84 mediations at a discounted rate of $300 per mediation. That would cover both parties. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over per council's request. I've asked Jan Downey to come to this council meeting and present their services. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jan, and she can present a little bit more information about Recourse. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for inviting me and to introduce Recourse to the City Council. And I believe we have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm not yet able to access.
You need to turn your video on. Do you have it on your laptop?
I do, and I had the video. The video was on here. And I am not seeing it at this moment.
Rebecca,
if you click share screen too, we can see your screen.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those options. I have chat and raise hand.
Oh, she may need to be elevated instead of just being like temporarily here. Can she be part of the panelists?
You should have been a panelist. It says, I'm not sure why she didn't come in that way.
Rebecca, I do have her PowerPoint on my screen. Would it be okay if I share my screen and I can click through the slides?
Perfect.
You can, yeah.
Okay, let me start the show and then I'll do share screen. Just one moment.
Great. I mean, Jan, if you are able to and comfortable sharing the video just so council can see your face, that's always helpful in these presentations as well.
Certainly.
Okay, hold on one second, folks. So just dueling windows here, one quick second. Okay, everybody can see that, I trust, and I will now start the show. Jan, just feel free to prompt me and I'll follow along as best I can with the slides.
Thank you. Okay, so I will try and just power through this quickly. Recourse is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have been providing mediation and education services to Sonoma County since 1993. We're under a contract with the Sonoma County Superior Court through the Dispute Resolution Program Act. We provide weekly mediation services on several court calendars, including unlawful detainer, small claims, civil harassment, short cause, and elder abuse. If you could forward the slide, thank you. Using the 2018-2019 fiscal year, because we lost 3 months of mediation with the extended court closure, I can just let you know that during that fiscal year that our Recourse volunteer mediators provided about 750 court mediations among calendars, including the small claims and civil harassment, unlawful detainer. We also have the contract with regard to juvenile justice youth offender referrals, and we worked with 28 youths during that year in restorative justice. And we also conducted another 75 community mediations on any number of issues, landlord, tenant, divorce, fence disputes, other types of neighbor disputes. Our mediators are trained. They require 32 hours of a basic mediation skills training, which is highly experiential. We use the community or facilitative model, which means that our mediators, we work with people in identifying interests in positions and reframing. We manage strong emotions, and we find common ground upon which to build agreements. We do not facilitate the outcome. We don't provide opinions or suggest outcomes if the matter is brought to court. The volunteer mediators who regularly staff the unlawful detainer calendar at court are attorneys. We have a number of attorneys, and the attorneys just seem to have naturally gravitated to the unlawful detainer calendar. It's expected that these experienced court mediators in unlawful detainer would also be helping us should this program go forward. And let's see, again, we have business people, we have all kinds of different people, retired people, a retired woman who has a master's in alternative dispute resolution, and these are just dedicated volunteers who do this for the joy of it. And we're very lucky to have them. And you can go to the next slide, please. So generally, when we get a referral or someone contacts us, we perform an intake on what's needed, on what the issue is. And then normally we prefer to have both parties call in, but we will make the initial call to the other party to see if a mediation is actually going to be feasible, if both parties can come to the table in good faith to sit down. We then assign a mediator who then performs an additional intake, speaks with both parties. Prior to mid-March, we would have our mediations in our office. We would also go to off-site areas. We've done a lot of work with Burbank Housing. We helped out at Salvation Army. We do mediations for workplace disputes at several institutes of education and hospitals. And basically, if somebody needs us, we'll be there. And then our mediations typically are scheduled for 3 hours and in length. And again, we hope that the parties can come to an agreement because it's their agreement. Our volunteer mediators are trained in agreement writing, and they're all highly experienced. After the mediation training, which is 32 hours in length, they go through another interview process to make sure that they're actually suitable to be volunteer mediators. We then have them observe several mediations. Then they will observe and jump up to be a co-mediator with a more experienced mediator before doing any mediations on their own. We do have Spanish-speaking mediators, and in situations sometimes when we've not been able to provide a Spanish-speaking mediator, we will bring in an interpreter at our cost. If you could go to the next slide, please. And I think that we generally all know what's at stake here, of families losing their homes, children living with insecurity, the seniors, homeless seniors. I included this slide. I don't think is anything that anyone doesn't know. Generally, the process at the unlawful detainer calendar at the court is an eviction's already in process. An eviction's going to happen usually. And so the process for our mediators is to just try to reach an agreement so there isn't a trial over the eviction. And this will be perhaps the landlord's willing to forgive some of the back rent if the tenant will move out sooner. Sometimes the tenant is willing to go on a repayment plan if they get a little bit longer to stay. So any type of an agreement that we can reach, the court is absolutely thrilled with us. And again, we just do hundreds of these every single year. And next slide, please. And then the next wave, of course, will be the commercial rental dispute. I'm not exactly sure. There could be a place for recourse there. We have seen an uptick already in landlord-tenant mediations. We're getting many inquiries. We've also received a few inquiries from the court on matters that are about to go to trial. Of course, there's still the moratorium, so the unlawful detainer calendar is just sort of paused right now. But we do hope to provide real solutions and provide a meaningful contribution to the city of Sonoma. I will just throw out, I am a resident of the city of Sonoma, so of course this is even more near and dear to my heart here. And then again, it could be a matter of rent repayment. It could be a matter of rent forgiveness. You know, I think that some landlords may find it very difficult to re-rent to anyone at this time. So I know that it's important for all of us that we try to keep our citizens in their homes. And Recourse has a very good track record of success in mediating agreements, and not just mediating agreements, but ones that stick, ones that people are comfortable with sticking to and fulfilling. And next slide, please. And again, we have in our proposal, we have provided that we will add should this program go forward, we will add a page to our website that discusses this. We will provide a new Gmail address for inquiries. We are, we've been around for nearly 30 years with regard to our billing. We keep meticulous records, obviously confidentiality. We are willing to produce a video for the website for this program. And I think there is where it's so important is the promotion. And that is where we would obviously need the city of Sonoma's assistance, because the program won't be successful unless it's promoted. So anything that the city would be able to do in terms of, social media or the website, Facebook, anything to let everyone know what's available. And I think that the program, again, if marketed correctly, can be extremely beneficial for our citizens and for the city of Sonoma as a whole. And for that, I sped through that quickly because I expected that people would have questions. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
I have a question. This is Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
So in terms of the mediation that's done, the proposed mediation for the city of Sonoma versus the court, it sounds like an amazing program, and I'm really happy to learn about it. And it's great that you live in town. If somebody were facing an eviction, are they guaranteed to have access to your services through the court already? Why is this different?
This program, this proposal for the city of Sonoma, this is a pre-unlawful detainer or pre-litigation program. This program is designed to prevent an eviction action being filed with the court. And this would then obviously free up the court. And again, it would give the interested parties an ability to fashion a new type of an agreement, perhaps a new type of rental agreement or lease, so that the landlord has some reasonable assurances of getting paid, or getting paid over time, and the tenant can remain in the home. Once the eviction process starts with the court, that eviction process is expensive for the landlord, who generally almost always has to hire an attorney.
Yeah.
And once it's been filed with the court, it's pretty much a done deal for the tenant at that point. This prevents both the cost of litigation for the landlord and for the almost certainty of eviction for the tenant.
So you're thinking that one of the likely outcomes is that people will not be evicted?
Yes, this would be an opportunity. This would be an opportunity for the parties to discuss, what's owed. Is there an opportunity for a repayment plan for back rent? And perhaps there would be an opportunity that the landlord, knowing that this is a good tenant in better times, perhaps some loan or rent forgiveness is appropriate. This is a way that the parties can fashion any agreement that they want, because it's their agreement. And they have the ability through our mediators to make any agreement that they wish to make, so that both parties then have some certainty going forward.
And then is this mediation more thorough than what happens at the court? Because from the tenant side, they could also get mediation if their landlord filed an unlawful detainer. So is the mediation that they would be getting through the city of Sonoma longer, or how is it different than what they would get if the landlord filed an unlawful detainer?
At the unlawful detainer calendar, that is the day that the court's only decision is to decide who is entitled to possession of the property. So the tenant is going to be getting an eviction date either by the court or through an agreement reached during mediation. The judge, currently Judge Patrick Broderick, requires all parties to mediate their cases before he'll hear them. And I would say probably 70, 75%, maybe up to 85% of the cases mediated come to some sort of an agreement rather than go before the judge for a short trial on the eviction. The difference is that the mediations, again, at court are very short. It's basically how much time does the tenant have and how much money will the landlord reasonably expect to receive prior or during the eviction process. The mediations that would be structured under this program are more typical of our community mediations, which are up to 3 hours in length. And again, we spend a lot of time prior to the mediation talking to the parties, getting them ready, preparing them for the mediation, managing expectations and getting them to the point that both parties are sitting down and ready to work on making an agreement that they both can live with. So it's versus almost like a triage at the court where you might get 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And again, it's going forward versus a 3-hour session outside of the courtroom setting, which is very intimidating, obviously, for a tenant.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. So I imagine you probably encounter a lot of tenants who just come in thinking their landlords are the worst, and maybe as many landlords that have not great opinions about their tenants. But how often does it happen that people are surprised that they were able to negotiate with the person that they had not had success talking to before they encountered mediators?
Thank you for that question. Again, our mediation process is the community mediation model. It's facilitative, meaning that our mediators are trained to, it's not just a contract. It's not just a rental agreement. Our mediators are trained to identify the underlying positions and interests, which can sometimes be quite different than what the real issue, the issue of just a contract. We work to find common ground. We reframe positions. We manage the strong emotions, and we provide a safe space to balance balance the energy and balance the power in the room. And when those things are being managed, then that's when very good agreements can come out of it.
Thank you. And for the pre-eviction services that you provide, do you have any ideas of what the best way are to reach the renters and landlords that would benefit from your services?
Well, again, that is that is certainly something. We would certainly need to market this to obviously the Spanish-speaking community. Again, we've offered to put up make an additional page on our website. Again, there would need to be some marketing throughout the city of Sonoma. I don't know what your normal channels are other than what I've seen on Facebook and elsewhere, but there really, I think, needs to be a push perhaps with the local newspaper or with other community organizations to let the citizens of Sonoma, the tenants, know of this program and that it's safe and that they should not fear calling us, because that's what happens sometimes, that a tenant is afraid to call us because they think that somehow we're going to tell on them or do something, and we don't. We're very confidential. All we want to do is try to help parties reach an agreement.
Thank you. I have a comment later, but those are my questions.
Go ahead, Madeline.
Okay, thank you. So in this mediation, I think obviously has to be a commitment on both parts. So there's a true, I wouldn't imagine that there's anyone there that would have the ability to make someone whole again. That's obvious not going to happen, but at least people will understand both sides, and hopefully if there is a commitment, there will be something that works for both.
That's right. And again, I think that it's beneficial to both parties. Again, there will be those people that come to the table that are going to just stick to their positions and won't budge, and that's a shame. But I do think that for perhaps landlords who are experienced landlords, that they will also realize, again, if they lose this tenant, that they may not be able to find a tenant for some time. It really works to their interest to work with that tenant to try to keep them in their homes.
So my questions would be one, so for other than the advantage of, court time and keeping a good tenant, what would be the advantage for a landlord to engage in this process versus just going through the court system?
Well, again, the landlord is they generally hire attorneys. Very few landlords are self-represented unlawful detainer calendar just because of the paperwork involved. So they're going to be out $4,000 or $5,000 probably just in attorney's fees. They're not going to get that back from the tenant. They always go in there asking for those fees, but it's just not going to happen. Even if the court awards it, the odds of that tenant ever paying those fees, it's remote. And again, for the tenant, again, in this program, if I can just go back to the tenant for a moment, it's very onerous to have an unlawful detainer on your record, because they try to go and rent someplace again. That's the first thing that's looked for, and they're going to have a great difficulty finding suitable housing again. And the landlords know this, but again, for landlords, I just go back to, I think that many landlords understand that they might find it very difficult to re-rent their properties and not find themselves in the same situation that they may be in right now. So for 3 hours of time that they can sit down and craft a workable agreement to keep the tenant, especially if it's a good tenant, one who otherwise has been able to pay their rent, and keep them in their home and keep a good tenant in their property.
And then are the agreements that are written legally binding as well?
Well, I mean, they can be. They can be written, as contracts. It depends. People are funny about that. Many times we have people come in that are negotiating a divorce, and they just want, or child custody agreement. They want nothing to do with the court, but they just want an agreement with the other parent, and that works for them. Mm-hmm. If the parties agree that this could be legally binding, I mean, it is a contract. That language can be included in that agreement. Of course, nothing's going to happen. You'd still have to initiate a lawsuit to enforce that new agreement.
You're back into the system.
Correct.
And then the other question I had is in COVID, how are you conducting meetings with people that don't have computers? Are they able to do it over the phone or?
Well, yes, we are doing that. It's not ideal. And, we've been doing that, and just within the last few weeks, there are some people who are participating by phone, and that does make it a bit more difficult for the mediator, who is used to reading visual cues and reading a person and enable, that's a big part of mediation. But we are where we are. And if telephone is all that someone has, then that's what they have. I didn't know if perhaps the city of Sonoma might have a computer terminal somewhere where somebody could appear. I don't know. But if it has to be by telephone, we can certainly do that.
Okay. David, did you have any additional questions?
No, I don't. I just like the work that's being done.
Great.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cook. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. If there's no additional questions, I'm seeing none. We'll go ahead and move on to public comment on this item, and I appreciate your time, Janice, today. And we'll go ahead and move on to public comment. So if you have a public comment, please raise your hand and we'll hear from you. And I'll open the public comment period. And Latanya, did we have any written public comment on this item?
We do have one, Mayor Harvey.
Oh, great.
It's from Anne, and I'm sorry if I mess up the last
Well,
name.
Cheetahs?
Yes, that's it.
Yes,
Dear
it's on
Council,
the box.
Dear council members, thank you for exploring this solution COVID-related rental debt to help keep people in their home. Very good questions. Thanks. I'm wondering if there will be any follow-up tracking or evaluation on the outcomes of this mediation contract.
That's a good question.
Absolutely. We keep records of all of our mediations and statistics under our DERPA contract with the county. There is an annual report that's sent to the state with regard to the number of mediations, the number of agreements, and we would certainly keep a separate log of under this program so you would know how many cases were mediated and the success rate, and probably any other statistics that you might like that didn't violate confidentiality.
All right, great. That's awesome. We see you have no other public comments. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council, and I'll do the clap. And do we have any additional comments from council? Rachel, you said you, or Councilmember Vice Mayor Hunley, you said you had a comment?
I do. I think the program sounds like it could be very helpful to people that are going to need services like this that might not even understand that something like this might be possible. It was even before March, it was already very tough to be a renter in Sonoma. Just if you're a renter, it's just something that you like to complain about to people that rent. But now that we are months into public health crisis, I've just seen an increasing panic from some renters that are falling behind and not sure how they're going to be able to catch up before all of the protections that have been instituted these months and that are going to continue for a little bit. So I think we're going to start seeing waves, and there's even going to be a delay to it of how it catches up with renters. And having an unlawful detainer on your record is fatal to finding new housing. And I think that if there was things that we could do to try to help avoid that consequence, not only keeping people in their house, but also finding paths for them to not walk away with something that's going to make it even harder for them to find something, it would be helpful. And I think that there's more that we could do to support renters in Sonoma, and that something like this, it would have to be paired with a very sort of effective outreach campaign to reach the people who could benefit from it. But I think that it is something that would be helpful here, and I think it's something that we should be doing.
All right. Councilmember Agamachi?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Jan, right? Jan?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Because, there's another side of this story, and I'm so glad. Mediation, as I said, I feel is a commitment for both sides. I think that renters, while it may not sit well, have more benefits at this point than landlords, because they have nothing but other than the fact that they could file taxes late. So those are some of the things that are the realities. But I still think that there has to be a mid-ground, and if anything could get them there, it would be mediation, possibly a payment program, any of those things that are available. And if both are in agreement, I think that's a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harrington?
I think mediation is good. My questions were really, our budget is so tight that we have to be careful with every dollar. So I think the question being, if these services are already being paid for by the county once an unlawful detainer is filed, are we paying for services that people could get other places without costing us anything? So I understand the nature of the mediation is different here. I do think having a mediation by Zoom or phone call is challenging as an attorney who's working on things like that. it is really hard to do a successful mediation where the parties aren't sitting face to face, but I guess that's our new reality. I would support a $10,000 pilot program to see if it gets used. I'd also like to hear from the staff if we have the resources to promote it as required to make the program successful. I mean, one thing, I think would be helpful, and I don't know if you could do this, would be a video and a sample letter about how to contact your landlord and let them know you want to negotiate your past due rent. Just like, what are the steps that people need to do just to start the process of having a dialogue themselves? I think that would be helpful, some kind of like self-help resources so you know how to even open the conversation. But I would support $10,000. If we had to spend if we were spending $25,000, which is the proposal, I think the most effective thing to keeping people housed is to help them pay their rent. I think that's the number one most effective thing you can do is help people pay their actual rent. So I would rather spend the rest of the money on that. So, especially since the service is available if an unlawful detainer is filed. But I do support $10,000 as a pilot.
Councilmember Cook? We can't hear you. You're muted.
No, like I said earlier, I like the aspect of what's going on, and I appreciate it. There's a lot of moments that we don't know how long this is going to go, and we're talking about different projects in the future. And I mean, I do agree with Councilmember Harrington that we do need to continue to do more. At this time, I'd like to just keep the good work that we're doing and see what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, because COVID-19 is definitely a moving target. If you read the news today, there's a lot of businesses that are really getting bankruptcy protection at this point. We just have no idea where this is going to head. So hopefully we keep up the good work here and continue the conversation.
I'm confused if that's a support for the program or not, but okay. I understand the support for the good work, but whether or not adding this program to the good work that we're already doing is, but that's okay. So for me, I mean, from my perspective, it's $25,000 for 80 mediations, 80 plus mediations is, I think it's further than that money would go if it was direct payments for rent. I think that is, we did do a great rental program. I fully supported at 160K, and we helped a lot of families with that. And so was happy to support that. I think that, the piece of the unlawful detainer and protecting people from having that on their record going forward, I think is really, really crucial and important. And that's kind of the difference between this and the court mediation, would be that we would be able to protect tenants from having that on their record to start with. As far as the self-help program, I think that people do really need help with this. These are muddied waters and things that people aren't comfortable with and aren't understanding on how to do. And I think it kind of helps shift the power dynamic a little bit. I mean, it doesn't give them additional actual power, but kind of having an actual mediator there would be beneficial, I think, for the tenant and the landlord, frankly. So for me, I see a benefit. I see a benefit for businesses as well, because we'd be able to do commercial mediation too. And I think that's really, really key, and just making people aware of kind of what their rights are. If that's a component of this, I support that too. So for me, I think it would be a worthwhile service, although, $25,000 is, money is significantly tighter for the city now. Agree. But to me, I think that this is a worthwhile program. I don't know if we could split it and to do like a 12, half the payment now and half later if it's a working and successful program. We don't know what we're going to see from the state and federal government on issues like this. I know there's a lot of talk around rental assistance or a lot of talk around eviction protection, but so far, in my opinion, federal government hasn't been super helpful on this subject. That's about as far as I'll go there. So that's kind of where I stand on this. I think I would support this program at the 25. I would also support a step, to see how it goes. As far as outreach, You know, with the food security task force that we convened, we had a meeting today. It represents, and what Kathy does too, with reach out to nonprofits on a weekly basis. We can get to La Luz, we can get to Fish, we can get to the Chamber, we can get to pretty much all of the nonprofits that would be able to do a lot of this outreach for us and kind of put that information out there. So I think we can do that. And then through the city's outreach, we can be successful. It's funny, I was talking to a council member from Cloverdale, and it was like, I wish there was a way that we could just, you know, through like a Nixle alert or something, text everybody about a program that we have and get that information out there to everybody quickly. And we need that kind of capacity. I think that would be fantastic if we had that kind of ability to not only say emergencies and things like that, but programs like this that we're running, or events that are happening on the plaza, or just simple as signing up for swimming lessons or something like that would be great if we could have that kind of access. We don't have that level yet. It's something that should be built, but I think we can do good outreach on this in the places that the people that need it will be. I do feel that. I think, you know, with outreach to SOS, with outreach to Fish and the rest of it, La Luz, other organizations, Comida para Todos, all the different organizations that are doing great work out here that connect with people that are going to need these services. I think we can get it done. So yeah, I would support this for sure. Kathy, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. If I may, so a couple things. Jeff may want, if you can correct me if I'm misstating this, but again, the governor has extended the eviction ordinance, allowing cities to have these ordinances in place now through September 30th. So, and again, this is what, the second extension after his original, so there may be a further extension. So again, I think we've got some time for this glide path a little bit. So that's one point that we're not. And this item was agendized as a presentation for all of us to learn more about recourse, and really appreciate Jan coming forward and the depth of the presentation and the good questions by council, so that we really get a good flavor of this. What we might want to do, and there does sound to be from each of you making your comments and general support, and yet I think there's this question of you know, how much money and what our financial situation is a little bit. We are going to be doing a quarterly agenda planning in September. We're also going to be coming back to council in September with a budget update. So I think there's time again, it would need to be agendized properly also for you to take action. But we could come back with a couple of options when you have a little more information about the status of the city's budget too. And again, figure out kind of how far you want to go. It may be also good on the commercial side for us to, you know, talk to a few folks and get a sense of what's happening now. I've talked to a few commercial brokers, but it's been probably 2 months. So we can learn a little more also there. So, and I think one of the questions, council, you're going to want to think when we bring this back for you to kind of take action on is, do you want this program to be similar to how we've done the rental assistance program, which it was teed where the first group was Sonoma residents, then it was folks that worked in the city but might live somewhere else in the valley, and then it was those who live in the valley but don't necessarily work in the city. And the rental assistance programs, and kind of, I just ran some quick numbers, roughly about just under 40%, 37% of the funding went to local city residents. The rest was supporting kind of city workers and broader. So that would be a policy call that you would want to consider too when this comes back. So I appreciate Erica's good work on finding recourse and doing the outreach with Jan and working with her to put the presentation together, and Jan being here tonight. And I guess my recommendation to council is we bring this back, you know, kind of in September is teed up for you all to take action with some options that you can then chew amongst yourselves and decide how you want to proceed.
Fair enough. Forgot that this was a presentation, so I apologize.
It's okay. No, I think it was really good. It was good to hear council's thoughts.
Yeah. That makes sense to me to bring this back in September when we know more. And I think that our eviction ordinance extends 60 days after the state declares theirs done. No? Okay.
Jeff, do you want to say what it is?
It doesn't.
Jeff,
what
what
does it do?
It doesn't. It ends when the state's, when the governor's executive order ends. And right now that's September 30. The city does have an up to 180-day grace period within which the unpaid rent can be paid back. But there's no extension beyond September 30th preventing or defending evictions. Do remember though, the court order is in place that precludes the issuance of summons. So even though if things stay as they are now, and somebody files an eviction proceeding on October 1 against a resident who lives in Sonoma, and that lawsuit is filed with the court, the clerk will not issue a piece of paper that authorizes the landlord to serve that lawsuit on the tenant. And that proceeding will be frozen. Nothing will happen.
Right.
And that's to continue, I think, is it 90 days beyond the date that the governor lifts his declaration of an emergency.
That's what I was confused about. So, I mean, for me, it's like, I think that the governor is going to continue this because the COVID crisis is continuing. My expectation would be that it continues in September. It may not, but that would be my expectation. And so if it does continue, then there's no purpose in us spending the money until we're in a situation where people are going to have to pay back rent.
But even if the governor doesn't continue it, as long as we don't have a cure for COVID, we're going to be in a state of emergency. And that means the court isn't allowing any lawsuits to go forward. So you can file a lawsuit, but if they don't let you serve the person, then it's on hold. So if it's 90 days after, it's basically 90 days after a cure to COVID, whenever that is when people can be served with a lawsuit.
It's going to be a long time.
Long time,
And
yeah.
Does that, what's the term that we had? That goes on your
Unlawful
record?
detainer?
Yeah. So does just filing a lawsuit put that on your record?
Well, if you haven't been served, I don't know. I mean, there was a lawsuit filed that you were never served with. I mean, it has no effect of law at all. You can say whatever you want in a lawsuit. It doesn't make it true until you have the trial or you settle it. And in this case, you cannot even serve it. It's like, okay.
It's unclear what effects it would have on your credit rating.
I don't think you could legally consider, I don't think it would be lawful for a landlord to consider an unlawful detainer that has never been served in determining your eligibility to rent. I mean, seems discriminatory, but anyway, yeah. If you wanted to make somebody leave your rental property, it cannot be done until at least 90 days after the emergency. More than that, you can't even be served with a lawsuit until 90 days after the emergency is over. Hopefully, that'll be November.
Okay.
Okay, so we will appreciate hearing the feedback perspective of council, and we'll be looking at this again through some other doors we can walk through here in September.
Great. Thank you, Janice, for your time. I appreciate the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. All right, we're moving on to consent calendar now. Oh, hey. That's fine.
Oh, no.
Yay, thank you.
I'm so sorry. I have to recuse myself from item 4.3.
4.3? Okay, great. So we want to get a motion on the consent calendar with the understanding that, or do we have to do them separately? I forget how that works when somebody has to recuse.
They can be all taken at one time.
Okay, great.
As long as the record reflects that Councilmember Harrington is recused herself from item 4.3 because her home is within 500 feet of a proposed site.
Great. So all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine unless acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. At this time, council may decide to change the order of the agenda. Boom. Do we have anybody wanting to pull anything off of the consent calendar? We do not. We'll go ahead and move to public comment. We've got Sonoma Neighbors for Safe Tech. raising their hand. We also have Mark Peters. Is that somebody for public comment? Mark Peters has made it into the panelist area and is now, but we've got so many neighbors for safe tech.
Thank
Take it
you.
away.
I'm unmuted. This is Mark Peters. I'm just here to see the vote on the consent calendar. I don't know how I made it into the panel.
Okay. Well, congratulations on making it.
Thank you nonetheless.
All right. So go ahead. Let me get my timer set. You got 3 minutes. And again, I may interrupt just to let you know that there is a time limit. So just hold on your comments for me 3 seconds here. Getting my stopwatch up and ready, set, go.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Harvey, council, and staff. I felt it was important to make a statement regarding this item. For the public record, I would like to bring to the council's attention that on June 15th, 2020, by denying the Verizon appeal, you made a finding that the 3 applications for small cell towers must be undergrounded, and that decision stands. The fact that you did not finalize the resolution on June 29th does not change your decision. You made a factual determination that they should be undergrounded because they would be too intrusive, and they are still going to be too intrusive. Verizon's letter to you of June 29th requesting modification of another condition of approval to better accommodate antenna technology doesn't change the fact that you determined the towers would be too intrusive. It's as if Verizon is saying, we're going to ignore this decision and agree not to underground. That's not right. Also, the paragraph mark 13 in that same Verizon letter states, changes or modifications to the equipment of the new streetlight pole within the antenna shroud are permissible without any city review or discretionary permits approvals, such that the antenna shroud is not enlarged in height or width or circumference in excess of 18 inches in diameter, end quote. That regulation applies to a cell tower once it's built, not before it is installed. This cannot be taken out of context. To me, it could be construed as misleading. Also, offering the council an incentive of withdrawing the 7 residential applications should not change your decision. That has nothing to do with the cell tower's intrusiveness. We appreciate the efforts Verizon has made to adapt the radios, but the council has voted to request undergrounding, and that should stand. Thank you very much.
You, Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Oh.
Appreciate your comments. All right, great. Any other comments? Robert?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I completely concur with the previous person's comments. I walked away from the last meeting with the understanding that the only acceptable version of Verizon, especially because it's right outside my door of a property I own, which I'm obviously not in agreement with at all. But you guys held your ground and said, hey, underground only, that's it, end of story. So if I, as a builder, make any changes to plans or anything else I do, I have to dance back through the whole process. If you do not make them dance back through the whole process and start over again by changing what they presented originally that was approved, I absolutely do not understand why you would do that. And if anyone wants to comment on that, feel free to let me know where you're coming from, because it just doesn't make sense on any level whatsoever. I just see you guys folding up to them, and as a resident of the valley, I do not appreciate it whatsoever. You guys are representing our valley. You're not representing the better good of watching your budget over worrying about being sued. You're supposed to take care of us, the people of the valley. And the people of the valley do not want Verizon towers littered around the downtown, period. End of my comment. I got nothing else to say.
Thank you, Robert. All right. So we'll go ahead and Do we have a motion for the approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second,
Second? All right.
And this is the consent calendar without item 4.3?
No, it's with item 4.3, but we understand that your aye vote will be not, you'll be recused on 4.3.
Okay,
That's understanding.
That's fine. That works.
Okay,
great.
thank you. Go ahead, Rebecca Barr.
Vice Mayor Hunley,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye, except 4.3.
Councilmember Agramonte,
aye.
Councilmember Cook,
No.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-1.
Okay, great.
Great. Sorry, can we just clarify?
David, were you voting against the whole consent calendar or just item 4.3?
You know, I'll make it easy. It was just against 4.3, but it really doesn't matter in the big end of the game.
I gotcha.
Okay, well, for purpose of the record keeping, it'd be helpful to clarify. So David, Councilmember
Yeah,
Cook,
just
is you're
right.
registering negative vote on 4.3 and affirmative on the rest of the consent
Yes.
calendar? Okay, all right. Thank you.
And to be clear, this is to continue the item until December. So we're not approving any changes. We're continuing the item to December. That's my understanding.
Yes, to a date later, indefinitely not, but it will be
to a date
later. Right.
So we have not approved anything with regard to the Verizon towers. We are continuing to a later date.
Correct.
Great. So moving on to item 6.1 in the regular calendar now. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding designation of City of Sonoma voting delegate to the 2020 League of California Cities Annual Conference. City Clerk, Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone. Every year, the League of California Cities has their annual conference. The city is one of the 480 cities in the state of California that are members of the league. And the reason that we are what the league does is they provide legislative and ballot measure advocacy for cities. They provide a voice for all the cities together. This year it was a touch and go as to we're going to have their annual conference. I just found out as with the agenda was being produced that they will be holding it virtually at a substantially reduced cost for individuals who would like to attend. Registration hasn't been open. It will be open very soon if it didn't open today. At this time, no one has expressed interest in going. We didn't know if it was going to happen or not. But we do, if someone is going, we need to designate a voting delegate for taking part in the business meeting that takes place on Friday of the meeting. We don't have, that's where the entire group will consider any resolutions that have been put forward. At this time, we don't have a pack of resolutions. I know that will be coming probably in September, but and we have to take action on this before the end of August as to whether we're going to designate a voting delegate. If we don't do it before that time, even if someone attends, they won't be able to vote. Typically, it's the mayor, if he's or she's attending, and then or one of the council members, and you can designate that. Unless there's any questions to designate, the voting delegate is up to 2 alternates. So if there is any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's the end of their report.
Do we have questions from council? Okay. Should we go ahead and bring it out to public comment? I'll go ahead and bring it out to public comment. Seeing nobody raise their hand, I'll go ahead and bring it back to council. I'm happy to be the delegate if nobody else wants to do it.
I support you being the delegate. Great.
All right. Done.
It does have to have formal action.
Okay.
Make a motion to appoint Mayor Harvey as our delegate.
Second.
All right. Great. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Hunley,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Beautiful. Moving on. Item we've all been waiting for. Item 6.2. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I appreciate it. Discussion, consideration, and possible action to adopt a resolution of the City Council and the City of Sonoma that authorizes the city manager and staff to extend and implement additional reopening and recovery measures, including extension of partial street closure on First Street East between East Napa and Patton Street, permit canopies, and a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to stop reading this right now and pass it over to, who are we going to? Kathy?
No, we'll go ahead and Mayor Harvey will go to Colleen Ferguson, our Public Works Director. I would ask Mark Bodenhammer to be promoted to be part of the conversation.
Bring him in.
And then we've got a few other staff members so as well that have been participating. So Lisa David Storr should also be promoted forward. With that, I'll turn it to Colleen. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're here to talk about the reopening and recovery measures and talk about what's been done so far and what's in the works and get council decision on 3 specific items with this action. So as you know, back just to recap, May 18th, council authorized staff and city manager to create and implement new reopening and recovery measures that included temporary use permits, encroachment permits, licensing procedures, covered public sidewalks, the plaza, the Grinstead Amphitheater, the public rights of way, meaning parking areas and roadways, and use of private property with property owner approval. So we had that May 18th and started working together with the council ad hoc subcommittee and the downtown business community to figure out what to do going forward. And we're starting to work on that. And then July 13th, the state put restrictions in that prohibited indoor operations of restaurants, wineries, tasting rooms. That put us in a whole different realm in terms of the only place a lot of our businesses downtown could operate was outdoors. So even more important to provide outdoor spaces to do business. And then came up with this Sonoma al fresco. So about dining and doing activities outdoors. Again, thanks to the ad hoc subcommittee and the Chamber of Commerce, the Vintners and Growers, and the Visitors Bureau. And to Sarah Tracy for coming up with our fun little umbrella Sonoma al fresco logo, announced this to the community. And so now we have a lot of activity going on outside and people dining outside. And so we have the Girl in the Fig offering dining on the plaza. We have BB. No, La Casa is approved. I'm not sure if they were out there this weekend in the past or not. We took out a parking lane adjacent to BB on Spain Street, so they're doing parking lane dining there, and Maya Restaurant is about to start dining on the plaza, the southern end. So pretty exciting to see all that going on. And then we did close just a little piece of First Street East, and I know when we've talked about First Street East closure, sometimes it's been described as from Napa to Patton. But that's not what it is. It's really just, and you probably can't see my pointer, can you? Can you see this pointer? Okay, yes. So it's just this little piece of First Street East, really next to Pangloss and Maya. And so any of the rest of the businesses on First Street East, south of Pangloss and Maya, the church, the residences, all that are easily accessed off of Patton. Fire department can get to fire department connections and all just south of the businesses. So it's really just this little piece of First Street East that was closed to through traffic with a pedestrian pathway down the middle of the street so that the sidewalks on both sides are available for outside seating. And then the sidewalks and part of the street are available. And you can see how Pangloss is using it in the photo here. Maya's about to get approval for their encroachment permit to use the other half of First Street East. So that's going on now. That was just approved from July 24th through August 3rd. So this is one of the items that's up for council decision tonight, is whether or not to extend this partial street closure to go on longer. And I know people do worry about fire access, and I want to make sure everybody understands that we are working with Sonoma Valley Fire and Rescue Authority and making sure the permits are all cleared with them. They do have their own set of reopening and modified business practices, post-COVID-19 general conditions of approval that are included in the encroachment permits for use of public spaces, public parking lanes and public street areas. So all that is clearly communicated to the restaurants when the encroachment permits are issued. Those conditions of approval do include mention of tents or canopies, saying that those 400 square feet in size or greater require a permit from the fire department. So of course that would be a condition if council did authorize canopies to be put up over sidewalk areas or street areas. If they were bigger than 400 square feet, they would have to go to the fire department for approval. And then another thing that we've talked about is how can we provide more opportunities for outside dining while still respecting the need of the retail businesses for access for their customers on the streets around the plaza. That's something we've talked to the businesses about, and working with Mark, especially at the chamber, is what if we closed one of these 3 streets, not all of them at the same time, but one of them, First Street West along one side of the plaza, or Spain Street along one side of the plaza, or First Street East along one side of the plaza, just at night for one weekend, a Friday and Saturday night. Give the restaurants along that block the opportunity to expand out into the street for people to walk in and just enjoy being outside on a nice summer night, not worrying about cars on one block adjacent to the plaza. As a trial basis, just try it out a couple nights, again, only in the evening time after the retailers close. So this is something else we're coming to council to ask your input if that's something you want to authorize staff to do. That doesn't mean we would just go and do it. That means we would have the authority to go forward, work with the downtown business community, all of them, the retailers, the restaurants and all, to decide if it and the ad hoc subcommittee, of course, to see if it's worth pursuing and actually implementing. Obviously, if no one was interested in expanding into the street area, or if the interest was minimal, we wouldn't go to the work of closing the street. But if council thinks we should pursue that as the option, we would want to know that tonight, and then we can continue those conversations. And then we also do get quite a bit of feedback from the community about, like, yeah, but people are walking by on the sidewalk and there's people dining and they're not wearing masks. And how can we more clearly communicate to the public that they need to wear a mask when they're walking on the sidewalk, especially when the sidewalk narrows, if they're walking near restaurants. So working again with the chamber and their graphic artist, and Lisa Jansen, our events coordinator, now coordinating these kind of events. As these decals on order. So these will be going out on sidewalks soon in the downtown area. So the recommendation for council, 3 items that we've talked about: extending the partial street closure beyond today on First Street East next to Pangloss and Maya, whether or not we should allow canopies over outside seating areas if restaurants want to put them up, whether we should consider that. And then whether we should be authorized to try a Friday and Saturday night trial closure of one of the streets adjacent to the plaza one weekend. So that's this item, and happy to answer any questions that folks have or direct them to some of the other staff on the meeting today, and welcome the council discussion.
Can I jump in on a couple?
Please.
Great. I just want to, I have 2 quick corrections. Number 1, I want to make sure that we're giving proper recognition to the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers and the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau, who have been our partner in all of these things, including a lot of the outreach, a lot of the generation of those graphics. And really just it's been a partnership ordeal, top to bottom from the beginning. So I just want to make sure that kind of every time we're referenced, that they get credit as well. Also on the staff report, it does indicate that I had gone and done outreach all around the plaza regarding closures of individual streets, and coming out of a meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, I did outreach on Napa Street, east of Broadway, and also on First Street East with those businesses, but did not get around the entirety of the plaza. So I just want to correct that. We were taking a look at First Street East between Napa and Spain as a trial run of potentially being the first place we tried this. So the outreach was limited to that for now as we got started. So the ideas, excuse me?
Thanks for clarifying that, Mark. I appreciate that.
You bet. Yeah, it's really important to make sure we are clear on whose voices were heard here. So the ideas we were talking about were the First Street East south of Napa, and as a permanent or semi-permanent closure, which is already going. The First Street East between Spain and Napa, which is in front of Sebastiani Theater there. And then also creating some parklets on Napa Street. The parklets idea was fairly unpopular. There wasn't anybody who was thrilled with the idea of shutting off parking to use for dining or retail purposes because of the pitch of the road and some other complications with vehicles coming right by their customers. But the two First Street East closures did have widespread support and not a lot of opposition. It seemed like a great place to roll this out and try it. I think that there's a little bit more hesitation from some of the First Street West businesses. So I would definitely say let's give it a test run where I think there's a general consensus that it's worth giving that a shot. And then Spain Street north of the plaza, we can do outreach there, but there's only so many businesses on that street. So it seems like First Street East was chosen as the trial run due to general consensus and also a good amount of upside for a number of businesses there who could probably participate in it. Last thing I want to say is we have about 3 months here where it'll still be a little bit light out, where we'll have pretty good weather, and pretty soon when the weather changes, the idea of Sonoma al fresco is going to change in people's mind. And these businesses, particularly our hospitality businesses, but really everybody is being impacted. And it's going to be very difficult for businesses between November and February when the weather isn't as nice. So we're really trying to do everything we can to support them. And I want to just thank the residents of Sonoma for two things. Number one, you're just consistent, relentless support of businesses throughout this. It's made a huge difference, and it means a lot to these people. You're really doing a lot to help keep our jobs here and help keep the businesses that are kind of our cultural backdrop. And second, your flexibility. We are taking some public space. We are creating some inconveniences for people, but this really is our one chance to help these businesses get through this time. So we're sensitive to that balance. We really want to make sure that we're not overly taking what residents expect for their quality of life and their assets in the city of Sonoma, but really just thankful for everybody kind of working together with the business community to get through this.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to start by thanking staff and everybody that's worked with us on this. I've talked to a number of the businesses, and they couldn't be more pleased and more appreciative of the work that Mark, Colleen, Lisa, Kathy, everybody that's involved with this has been doing, and just the responsiveness that they've gotten from staff. It's really fantastic, and I appreciate working with Vice Mayor Hunley on this topic as well. It's been really, really fascinating. Questions that I have with regards to the First Street East shutdown on Patton Street. It's not to Patton Street, but that section. Has there been inquiry at all from from any of the wineries in Vine Alley? I know Koshan is kind of right at that 533 spot. They're a winery there that would probably appreciate some of this, and I know that Vine Alley is pretty impacted. And so is there any talk of kind of opening that up to, if we could go to basically where the parking lot is, to add additional spots for kind of wineries to be able to come in and be successful. I mean, if I was Koshan, I would feel they've got a nice little patio area, but if they could move into the streets or if we could offer it to the other wineries that are there, that'd be something that I'd be interested in. Or even the wineries that, like Cayman has no ability to do any outdoor tasting right now. Neither does Bennett Valley Cellars or any of the ones that are right there on West Napa or East Napa, I apologize. And so opening that up to the wineries that are close and kind of giving some opportunity to put a couple tables down. I don't know, maybe that would be something that I would be interested in hearing. I don't want to block off church access. I know it's also kind of daycare, and then I don't know what they're doing for church and the rest of it right now, but I wouldn't want to block that off or access to fire. But coming down a little bit further down the road would be kind of interesting, or allowing them to use that parking space behind them would be something that I'd be interested in pursuing. So has there been inquiries from wineries about that at all, other than Pangloss?
I'm looking at who's in the meeting, and I don't see Lisa Jansen. She may be in the background. I'm not sure. She would know more about what businesses have been asking or making inquiries. I can tell you that the fire department connection on Pangloss is right about here, and the fire department connection from Maya is right over here. So keeping access to these two was part of how we convinced ourselves that closing the street here wouldn't be a safety issue. Okay. Because fire can get to both of these points that they need to get to if there's a fire in this vicinity. Okay. And so I would worry about additional closure now, taking parking on the side and all that could be different. And could, if the businesses were interested in that, we could have those kind of conversations. I think it couldn't just extend the closure down to hearsay.
Yeah. And then, thank you.
David here. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I believe that staff has contacted the two businesses that you mentioned, Mayor Harvey. And I believe there was no interest in going into the street on one of them. I'll have to rely on Wendy. I believe I've seen those permits issued on private property within the last week. So I don't believe that Lisa would be able to answer that unless she's been able to catch up today if she was out last week. But I'll check on those permits while you're talking.
Great.
And I can jump in real quick and just let you know that I know Koshan did say that closure was impacting them, and they were hoping just to be able to get out onto the sidewalk as a way for them to expand and just get a little additional visibility. So they were pursuing that. I'm not sure where it stands, but they sounded comfortable with that as sort of a happy medium, where I think that having that street closed will create some additional visibility for them if they have some umbrellas out front or something. Cayman also has put in an application for sidewalk tastings, and I believe they've been given verbal approval from staff. And so that is moving forward, and I'm sure it's just going through the first stages of paperwork to get that finalized. But that is in the works, and we are doing things to help both of those businesses. It does highlight what the challenge here is. Every time you create one of these creative solutions, it does come with impacts on other people, and we're trying to kind of navigate this sort of piece by piece and try to do whatever we can to help everybody. Lastly, I do just want to thank staff, the planning department staff, Christina, Lisa, everybody has been really great and has done an awesome job just in terms of customer service with the businesses. Everybody's feeling like they're getting really great responses. So thank you to all of you on staff.
Yeah, fantastic. The other thing I would say is just if there was a way that we could provide additional space for Vine Alley. I know they're already very, very small locations down there, and they struggle a bit with visibility. But they probably have a couple tables and chairs outside, but if there was some other way, other option, but if we could do some outreach there, I think that would be really good. So moving on to First Street East and First Street West. My understanding is that kind of our proposal is to work on First Street East to start and do that there. Mark, you had some outreach with another city, and right now we're looking at what are the times that we're looking at? 5 to 9 is my understanding.
I believe that I'll double check the staff report. I believe we had decided to shoot for 5 to 10 here.
Oh, great.
The property or the city that we are duplicating is San Rafael. So due to the concerns that we had discussed about retailers needing to have ample time for their customers to come and visit those shops, we thought that an evening focused approach would work really well. And that's what they've done in San Rafael. So they closed down the entirety of 4th Street, which is the main drag in the community. Lots of retailers, lots of restaurants. And because it is the entire street, it does mean you have some challenges in terms of how do you get parking, situated so that people understand they can't park there after a certain hour. But the good news about shutting down an entire street is it really only takes one barricade. You can shut off an entire block, and then there's no concerns about traffic on one side of the street or having people in a parklet or something like that. It's a clear cut. This street is closed for right now, and it gives the restaurants an opportunity to have a full dinner service using their existing furniture. They don't need to buy any special furniture. They can just drag everything out. So we like it as a balanced compromise type solution that is respectful of the retailers' needs for their customers driving up and having access to the stores, while also giving the restaurants a chance to make some money at night.
And then, I had talked to somebody who kind of mentioned that, if we're just doing weekends, it's not really that many days until we start to get into raining months. So, I would be open to looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday as a potential option to do kind of 4 days a week on closure. That's something that I'd be very interested in talking about. My biggest concern, and Mark, you and I have discussed this, is how do we get the parked cars out of there that parked at 4? And so, it seems like we'd have to kind of shut off parking probably around 4:30. How many A-frames are we going to put out there that have that information? How many people are going to be out there writing tickets if people are there? How are we going to move these cars along? How are we going to identify the people? And then secondly, our best kind of, we don't benefit from having a large parking structure, which is, parking is something that's desperately needed and often talked about in Sonoma. So how do we direct people down to the Depot Park parking lot? How do we add additional signage to direct people down to the parking lot, the Casa Grande parking lot? How do we get people to, can we get a negotiation with veterans or something like that for those parkings too? How do we get people there? There isn't that much signage. That the Casa Grande parking lot specifically is always underparked. How do we do that?
Yeah, all great questions, and we're working on that. So the economic development director for the city of San Rafael is helping us out and provided some clarity on those things. They do have city staff involved in marking the parking spaces. They are, she's actually currently looking into the question as to have they had to tow cars or something like that. That's obviously not what we want to get into, but we are still working on some of those details and trying to figure out the logistics of exactly how that would work. So that brings up a great point about what we're looking to approve tonight. So there is potential for doing multiple different streets, and really, I just want to clarify that we've kind of asked the council to authorize staff to approve more than is required or more than we need immediately. I think this is going to start off as a small trial run on one block to see if it works, and then if it's successful and if there's interest from other areas of the downtown community, we can certainly pursue it. Frankly, we could look at other streets around the city as well. It's just kind of try it once. So still learning about the logistics of how that would work. We definitely would need some additional signage, some wayfinding to get back to Casa Grande lot. That's probably a good idea for us to do, regardless of what we choose on this matter tonight. But great questions, Mayor, and we're still continuing to figure out some of those little logistical matters, but trying to get authority to give staff the green light to execute it once we've answered those questions sufficiently.
Okay. Other questions I have are, where would we direct traffic? Would we direct it to 2nd Street East or down to 4th Street East to get around? Where would the detour go?
I would probably look to
yeah,
sorry, Colleen. Yeah.
Right, and we haven't worked out all those details yet. It wasn't exactly clear which block we were focusing on. So if we're going to focus on First Street East, I would want to make sure that people approaching the plaza, say on Highway 12, would know to turn left on First Street West to either get to the Depot Park parking lot or get to Spain and go over to Spain to the Casa Grande lot. So I'd want to catch them there. You know, not wait till they get to First Street East and realize they can't turn left there.
Would it be possible to open up parking around City Hall for additional parking at all?
It's really up to the city council. I would want to have input from the city manager on that.
Okay. I mean, between those hours, it seems like it wouldn't be very impactful to us to have that. I don't even think that there's a bus that runs. I mean, I don't know what the latest bus is.
Yeah. So I think that's something that could be looked at, you know, kind of different assets. You know, 1.2, we were looking at, do we use the back of City Hall for any other type of, whether it was a group, you know, kind of eating area or tasting room area or something. So,
yeah, we can do both.
The last question that I have, and I apologize for asking so many questions, and I'll go back to council, is if every single one of the restaurants and additional retailers, like everybody is applying for space in the plaza, how much is left for the public? Is there a point where we say there's no more additional space in the plaza and we're capped out and we need to retain a certain amount of public space? Do we have a limit in terms of that?
So I don't know that it's an official policy, but we have, from the get-go, we've estimated a 70-30 balance, so leaving at least 70% open to the public and only using 30%. Part of the process of getting ready to do this was going around to all of the restaurant businesses to ask them if there was interest. But again, one of the complications of this COVID situation is it's a dynamic situation. So the answers that they were giving us when we did that specific outreach 2 months ago or a month ago, I'm not sure what the timing was, may be completely irrelevant now. But I think that the short answer is, I think everybody's pretty committed to maintaining a healthy balance of leaving at least 70% open for the public's use. If it comes to the point where so many restaurants have expressed an interest in doing it, we probably would go back to the ones that are currently operating and ask them to scale back and find some way to fit it in those, you know, splitting up the times, some other way of doing it. I think it's really important that we strike that balance and protect the community's you know, park assets.
I appreciate that. Thank you. End of my questions.
Yeah, Mayor. Mayor Harvey, if I go for a second, I guess one of my biggest questions, because tonight's agenda is kind of open-ended for the council to, on a temporary basis, and I understand that. So I guess my questions would be, one, about public safety. If, you know, are we going to use ballards? And these are public streets that, you know, violent acts happen, and we have to be prepared for that. Are we looking into that? And then number two would be the insurance with REMA, if we have to do any extra insurance. Not saying that I'd be against it. I would just, the transparency of knowing, you know, how do we protect the assets of Sonoma? And I'm sure that San Rafael and everyone else that has done this, you know, has probably looked at this, but I want to make sure Sonoma that we're looking at that before we give the green light, or before I give the green.
Good questions, Councilmember Cook. I can tell you on the restaurants that are currently operating on a public street, they all have encroachment permits issued by the city that have their insurance insuring their activities on our street. And so while we, you know, at our risk, I guess, put up the barricades with our staff on First Street East for Pangloss to operate in that space, they filed their insurance with the city, and I issued an encroachment permit for them to use that space.
And then I guess the other question about,
I would anticipate us doing the same thing on First Street East and the other section. If we were to close it and allow restaurants to come serve in that space, that they would have encroachment permits authorizing them to do that.
Yeah. And are other cities, are they looking at putting in ballards or something to protect the public in these areas?
And Mark may have some comments on this. There are a variety of options that you see in different communities. I know in Santa Rosa, where they've closed the streets downtown, like 4th Street in downtown Santa Rosa, they put water wall barriers at the street closure locations, but that street is just plain closed. It's not closed at night and then reopened during the day, and then closed at night and reopened during the day. It's closed all the time, and I know they're getting feedback from the retailers about that. For a just temporary nighttime closure, I picture the closure being similar to what we have on the 1st Street East section by Pangloss and Maya.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think a couple of things. Agree with everything that Colleen said. Sorry, I keep trying to call you Fergie. Agree. So in San Rafael, they use just simple barricades that you could come and push over. So it's definitely not protecting someone from a vehicle going the wrong way. I think that the heavyweight barricades work well in 2 situations. One, when it's a permanent closure like Santa Rosa is doing, or 2, when you have a situation like on Spain Street where B&B is. It makes sense that while you're having vehicle traffic actively driving back and forth behind people that are sitting and dining, it makes a whole lot of sense to use those barricades. Some of the rationale behind closing all of 1st Street East rather than doing a partial closure was to address just that fact. If you close an entire street, there's a pretty reasonable way to close it off and make that very visible and apparent. And of course, you always take on some risk when you're doing something like that. But I think that a full street closure is fairly easy to mark out and make it very clear that there's nowhere to turn there and that nobody should be entering the street. So that hope that answers your question, Councilman Cook.
One more bit of information using the 1st Street East example. So we do have a 20-foot buffer between where the first barricade is on the north end of the crosswalk and where the first diners are seated. So it doesn't protect against the act of terrorism where someone was trying to drive through the barricades and hit someone on the street. But if someone just isn't paying attention and they turn and hit a barricade, they would apply their brakes and stop the car. They wouldn't hit someone immediately. There's a buffer there.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of answered my questions. Like I said before, I appreciate everything everybody's doing for this, and definitely know that our businesses are in trouble, and the city of Sonoma with the tax and that money goes to nonprofits. But just knowing that at least it's part of the discussion is all I wanted to state tonight. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can I go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So the work that's happened so far is amazing, and this presentation was really great. I really liked it, and also, I don't know, it makes me feel good seeing the people out on the sidewalks. It's nice to see so much life going on. So I had a couple questions. I was wondering, one, is there room for somebody in a wheelchair to go through now? Are we still in compliance with ADA? I was wondering about that. Does anybody know the answer to that?
Councilmember Harrington, do you mean specifically on that section of 1st Street East that's closed?
No, I just mean like walking down the street with more restaurants and things being bumped out on their own sidewalks, just in the sidewalk area. I was wondering if it still was ADA compliant, because sometimes the distance is pretty narrow between the tables and the sidewalk, and I wondered if somebody was in a wheelchair, if they still would be able to access the sidewalks.
My understanding is that all the restaurants are keeping a 4-foot clear space for ADA access. We have had complaints come back to the city that people trying to walk by, so not in a wheelchair, but just people trying to walk by feel like it's hard for them to maintain 6 feet from the people sitting down dining. Not hearing that the 4 feet's not there, but concerned that the 6 feet is not always there.
And what have you done about that?
We have these decals on order that we'll be putting out to encourage masking and understanding that you're going to be passing a narrow sidewalk area and it's an important place to have a mask on, and making sure that restaurants are informing their customers also about wearing masks. We are requiring 6 foot clear on the sidewalk, but I understand the comment that often even if the chairs are set up with 6 feet to begin with, people move them around and you don't have 6 feet at all times.
So it sounds like it's just additional education. My second question was, in terms of a canopy over outside seating areas, are we talking about a tent or are we talking about umbrellas, or what is a canopy?
I'm not sure what the people who have asked about this have in mind exactly, but you can see on this slide what a canopy might look like. So instead of just like a 10 by 10 tent, I think this one on the website that I took this image from, it's 26 feet by 13 feet.
I guess I'm just wondering, are we talking about like what they put over Hot Monk last Christmas? Is that a canopy or is that something different?
I don't know what they put over Hot Monk. Oh,
It's like a
do you
big
mean
tent
a
structure
tent with
that has
sides?
walls.
Yeah, I can tell you anything with, I think, more than one side, with essentially a wall there, a temporary, it converts, if it was more of a tent, it converts the outside space to an inside space, and then they can't serve food in there. So they have to stay with the health order to keep it an outside space.
Oh, okay.
They want to be able to provide shade in the summer, and if there was a light rain, they could protect customers from that as well.
Okay, and I don't think this needs to be dealt with, like, obviously not the top priority, but we have a kind of a hodgepodge look right now of barriers and different things, and at some point, if it was going to become relatively permanent, I would like to see it perhaps be more aesthetically pleasing, or some designs that go together. I'm not at this moment, not the priority, but at some point, if these are relatively permanent structures, I think the aesthetics of the plaza should be considered. But I think that closing down one block on the plaza, closing down the, I guess I'll make that in my comments. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
And
Questions
can I
from
just,
Councilmember Agamonte?
Sure, thank you. I have five questions. One, and this is premature. I saw somewhere a flyer from the county. Is the Board of Supervisors, are they looking at fines for people who don't wear masks?
That's my understanding. Yeah, we discussed it on the mayor's call. There's a likelihood that they go that direction to allow for some fines. One of the things I expressed is, at least allowing flexibility for cities and commercial zones to do that would be really helpful. So like in our kind of downtown area, but my understanding is they're going to be discussing the potential of that on Tuesday. So tomorrow.
Thank you. And I guess I'm referring to this correctly. Water wall barriers, is that what those are called?
You got it.
Yay, I'm so excited. I learned a new thing today. So I wanted to ask, if some streets are permanently closed, are you saying that those are not filled with water to protect people from someone trying to, knock them, just drive into people?
Right, so we have the water wall barriers in 2 locations right now. We have them on Spain Street to block off just the parking lane adjacent to BV. And we have them on East Napa Street, blocking off parking spaces in front of Cafe La Haye. And that's the only places we have them, and they are filled with water.
Oh, all right, because I was worried about that. Thank you. And where was it? I guess I was looking at some access for like a truck, a fire truck. And this has all been checked out about turning and all of those things for these streets that are sort of starting to be filled up.
Are you saying, are the water wall barriers in the way, or is
no,
the street
fire
closed?
trucks with the ladders, if they have to go to a fire, so they're able to turn and navigate through these intersections?
Yes, they are. And I admit at BV, where there is a turn there, we do benefit from the fact that there's no parking adjacent to the Mission.
Okay, thank you. And on First Street East, one side is Maya at Napa, and the other is that Pangloss? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay, because I thought I thought it looked like both of them were Maya. So let's see. I have another one here. Having spoken to one person, and I know Mark has been in contact with the retailers, one in particular, and this is just this is me that's saying this. I was wondering if with the restaurants, and they have that advantage of having a tabletop, to advertise some of the retails with table cards. I don't even know if that makes sense. I have no idea, but it would be fun if I was having dinner at one of the restaurants and say, oh, you know what? I need olive oil. So I think I want to bring it to my cousin back in wherever. And I thought that would be kind of fun to have tabletop ads. But I don't know. That's just me. That's it. Thank you.
Can I chime in on that and a couple other
Definitely
things?
wasn't going to take that one, Mark. That one's for you.
So there are some complications in that right now there's limitations on what you can put on tabletops, and so that does make that a little bit complicated, but I love the concept. We'll explore that and see if maybe there's some ways we could put something under a sheet of plexiglass or something so that it's visible, or maybe something that's a takeaway. And that's a great idea. To address your point about fire trucks and Amy's earlier point, excuse me, Councilwoman Harrington's earlier point about ADA access, we have literally been out there with tape measures and measuring sticks. There is a requirement of leaving 4 feet of space on all sidewalks for ADA compliance, and they do give there's an allowable 1 foot variance for things that are small obstacles like a tree or a sign or something like that. So that's definitely been considered and is part of the approval process. Same thing with the fire trucks. We've looked for where the fire hose hookups are on buildings before allowing any street closures or parking closures to take place. So those things are all definitely being taken a look at. Lastly, with regard to Councilmember Harrington's point about the aesthetics, I definitely think that's a concern. We want to make sure that all of these things are appropriate. We have a beautiful plaza that we don't want to turn into something that looks like a flea market. So I think that that's a good concern. And we're also working with Creative Sonoma, which is a sub-organization of the Sonoma County Economic Development Board, and they've made available a grant of up to $30,000 that we've applied for that would assist with beautifying these outdoor business spaces and doing some other creative things to make these, it's called a creative reopening grant. And so we've applied for that to see if we can help work towards that goal of making sure that these are functional, but also part of the aesthetic appeal of our cool downtown.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Well, isn't that nice? Vice Mayor Hunley, did you have questions?
No questions.
All right, great. We'll bring it out to the public. Anybody else have questions? All right, we'll bring it out to the public for public comment. You have a public comment? We got Ryan raising his hand. Bring him on in.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. I'm Ryan Laley. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Pangloss Cellars. I would like to begin by extending my gratitude to Lisa Jansen, Colleen Ferguson, Christina Tierney, and Mark Bodenhammer, and the countless of other public works staff that has been exceptionally responsive and helpful with assisting us through the closure permitting process. I come before you this evening to request an extension of the closure of First Street East through October 2021. Pangloss Cellars, as you know, is a local, small, family-owned business that employs 42 people. We have strived and succeeded in keeping all of our team employed throughout every iteration of the health ordinances. And the continuation of the closure of First Street East would give us the peace of mind that we will be able to keep our team employed and our doors open. A prolonged street closure would also give us the assurance we need to validate expenditures on fixtures, vegetation, and signage that would further beautify the space. as well as yielding a sense of security knowing that we have a fixed space to operate out of. We urge the council to also view this from a larger perspective in that this is actually a vote to protect local jobs and a small local business. If the street closure is not extended and we are unable to serve guests, it will challenge our viability as a business to remain open and jeopardize the livelihood of our entire team. Please take these points into consideration when deciding to extend the closure of First Street East through October 21. Thank you guys so much for your time in considering this.
All right, do we have other members of the public who would like to comment? Thank you so much, Ryan. Do we have any written comments?
We do have one, Mayor Harvey.
Thank you so much.
From Jennifer Palladini. Dear members of the City Council, I am writing to encourage you to vote in support of street and parking closures to accommodate seating for outdoor restaurants. I feel that seating on our narrow sidewalks without additional accommodations for pedestrians puts the public at greater risk of COVID-19, as it is not possible to pass the recommended 6-foot spacing from those dining and drinking without masks on. To improve public health and safety, we should follow the suit of other cities that have eliminated parking spots or closed roads to accommodate outdoor dining at safe social distances, while also providing ample room for pedestrians to walk at safety. I realize people will have to park further away than they may be accustomed to, but public health should be our highest priority at the moment. I also encourage you to consider transitioning permits, allowing use of the plaza to permits that instead accommodate diners in streets or parking spots. I support extending accommodations like those set up in streets at Maya and Pangloss, so long as they are designed to continue to accommodate pedestrians. I believe the closures of significant portions of our public spaces on the Plaza Park itself are unreasonable, particularly for restaurants like Grill and the Fig, which already have large outdoor dining areas. The public should have full access to our public parks at a time when outdoor spaces are safer for gathering and playing. Thank you for your service to our community, Jennifer Palladini.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Latanya, for reading that comment. Appreciate it. We have no other public comment that's written and no other people looking to comment, so I'll go ahead and close public comment. And Colleen, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen unless council wants it. We can kind of see the whole group here. And who would like to make a comment?
I'll comment.
All right, great.
So these last, I guess, few months, I don't know, it all blends together with the subcommittee. It's been productive and exciting, and we really have a particularly amazing team. Mark has done great work with outreach, and he is full of ideas that are both creative but also focused on things that are practical. Colleen has been instrumental in sort of checking these ideas for things that are physically realistic and things that we can do safely, but then also working hard to figure out how to make a good idea work safely, and also things that are, cost effective for whoever will be paying for it, or things the city could do to smooth the way to create these opportunities for businesses. And Lisa is just, she's on the ground talking to all of the permit holders and just has such a training for the plaza with the events that she's done, and then just sort of bringing it to life. Even in our last call, we had a pretty long conversation about the mask wearing on the plaza and how that's a big concern for a lot of people. It's my concern too, and just more ways that we could get visitors especially to be better about that. And I don't remember when our last call was, maybe it was a week or two ago, and the idea came up for, well, couldn't we just put signs on the sidewalks? And so now we suddenly have sidewalk decals coming. So it's been an ongoing creative process and it's been really exciting. And the flexibility that the subcommittee has had so far to work with them to try out a few things and sort of get bigger and bolder as it seems needed. And I'd be remiss to also mention David Storr, who got to hang out with us this past month on our calls, who has been very helpful too. So I think we have a really great team, and the authorizations that we're asking for today, like it still has to run through the filter of this team who are just so smart and practical about things. And it's just really the flexibility that I think is desired because, you know, we didn't really know that we would be taking a step back. It's not a huge surprise, but it's just been nice to be able to try some more things. And I think that as, you know, the Pangloss Maya street closure was kind of the first little taste, the first street east closure, you know, it's going to be only a couple nights of a weekend as a tryout, but we think that sort of as these things start coming to fruition, that it could also foster more ideas, and then maybe businesses on other sides of the plaza might get excited about it and come up with ideas that would fit for them. So it's just part of the process. So I will be supporting the staff's recommendation tonight, and I think that if we end up trying something and it doesn't work, then we'll just end up moving on to a different idea that does work. And so far everything's working out really well, and I feel really confident about where we're going. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention was about just the plaza use for the restaurants. You know, some of the things that we're doing, we've even talked about, wouldn't it be great if this is something that we could have a lot, like permanent parklets, so we can have more outdoor spaces, or in the summers, even when we're not in the middle of a global pandemic, being able to close the street just to have a little nighttime street festival. So some of the things I think might want to talk about in the future, but some of the things like using the plaza for businesses, I can understand why there's a tension there, but I just see it being such an unprecedented time, and looking at public space as a whole for, you know, a broad public good, that sometimes the space could be used temporarily a little differently when we wouldn't normally allow that in normal times. So just wanted to express my gratitude to the staff team. Some of the calls that we've been on, they've gone straight into staff mode and talking about these very minute details, which it's a lot to come together. So I appreciate everyone, and I hope that the council will support this tonight. And I think that sort of the idea is that everything is a step forward, and sort of flexibility to think and try new things is a good thing.
If I can go next, Mayor Harvey.
First, Councilmember Cook.
Yeah, it's interesting what 8 years does. When I first got on the council, one of the biggest questions was talking about possible street closures, because Sonoma was looking in a different, you know, possibly a different direction. Things were a little different. Everybody I see on this Zoom meeting was not here except for Jeff Walters. That's what 8 years does in this realm. But tonight, you know, we're here to talk about these three. And as you know, I've always supported business, and I believe that this is a time that we definitely need to be supporting business. And we do have our town character. I know I've talked to a lot of concerned citizens about what direction this will go. But knowing this is temporary is very important. And I do understand what Vice Mayor Hunley just said, that we're going to be living in different times. So there might be things that, you know, Sonoma will look different no matter what happens, just because of COVID-19. And these are some really good times to do some beta testing. And I've been telling all the constituents, even though I only have 3 months left on the council, this is something that, you know, future councils will be looking at. So I will be supporting number one. My screen just on my phone, I had it, my notes, that's what I like about it. I do support number one, the extension of the First Street East. That's the Pangloss and the Maya. And the canopies, I would like to see a little bit more of a definition of what a canopy is. And kind of going back to what Councilmember Harrington said, it would be nice if the Chamber and the Visitors Bureau, along with the vintners and growers and the team that is doing a great job, could really talk to the businesses and make sure that they're talking about hopefully using the same color schemes in certain areas so it looks good. I am a little concerned about the park and keeping access to individuals, the families that live here in Sonoma. But with that said, the Friday and Saturday in the evening, like Mark was talking about, makes total sense to me. So I definitely will be supporting that. And probably the only concern I have is if something has to turn permanent for the protection of the public. I've seen a lot, in the last 3 or 4 years. I know that there was talk about putting ballards up just during the Tuesday farmers market because you have Broadway, where if you got, these are real discussions we have to have because, we do live in the real world. So I'm just saying this as recommendations to the team that will be looking at this. Hopefully this gets approved tonight, is to really take a look and think outside the box a little bit. If it is talking about drilling a hole, putting a piece of pipe in and a big ballard that can be removable like we do on the bike paths, I'd be supporting that. I don't think the cost would be that much, but then it depends if, about egress and different things with, the cities and everything. So with that said, I will be supporting this, and I'm hoping that this will be something that will come back to the council in a short period of time and watch this as it happens, because we don't know where COVID-19 is going. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, and looking towards the future is what we need to do. So I will be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Harrington.
So again, thank you to staff and our partners, and to the city council committee who worked on this. Is such great work and really exciting. And I, for a long time, I thought it would be fun to close the plaza on Sunday mornings for brunch early in the day, which I know there wasn't particular support for necessarily, but it's happening during COVID that we're shutting some of these streets. And I think it's, not just a replacement, but actually something kind of exciting to see happen. And so I think that might be a positive long-term change. I really agree with what Councilmember Cook said about the ballards. I was concerned about the safety of people sitting outside. So I think long-term, that's a great idea. I support all 3 of the staff recommendations, and I'll be voting for them. And then in terms of the use of the plaza, I do think it's like an appropriate, while businesses figure out how they're going to pivot, I think it's totally appropriate for us to give that kind of support. But long term, absolutely, I don't think we should be using that space. We're at such a space crunch now that the high school facilities are under construction. So it's like we don't have the track, we don't have those fields. It's sort of unfortunate timing that they're doing all of that work down at the high school track right now, because that took away another place where people could be outside and do some recreation. So I don't know what the time frame is. I imagine it's through the end of this year that we would allow that to continue on. But I do think we need to be really careful about spaces where people can recreate and sit down. I also think that the closures might push us, it's another step further to getting people out of their cars, and that's healthy as well. So I think, all of this is good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the results are and, kind of watching it all unfold. But I don't know. I think it's a really interesting thing to have all this outdoor dining in Sonoma, and it's so amazing that every question we asked, you guys are already have been working on it for months. So thank you for that.
Councilmember Agamonte.
Sure, thank you. As I'll just mirror what Councilmember Harrington said, I support the first 3 suggestions, and I think there's, I just want to know, if masks are made mandatory, I just want to know that, everybody's prepared for that. The second thing, I'm going to mirror, I guess, what David Cook has always said: big deal if we don't want people to wear masks, we don't enforce it. This is what you usually offer, David, and I agree with that. And I'm not in favor of just carte blanche. Yeah, it worked for 4 months. Let's just throw that baby in until January. I really would like it to come back to the council, and perhaps there's no agreement on that, but that's just how I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. I appreciate it. So as the other member on the subcommittee, I've really enjoyed working with staff. I think it's been super fun, really creative. And it's just like, what you always kind of hear, I think like colloquially, it's this perception that government gets in the way of business and it can be hamstrung by it. But I think this has really been a strong showing of the reverse, where we are being creative, we are being open, we are turning around permits the same day. And I'm just blown away, and the public is blown away. Every person that I talk to that's involved with staff on this is just super excited about how well we're working. We had an issue with ballards, and Colleen said, "We'll buy the ballards, take care of it." And we've gone out above and beyond to try to take care of our business community that we're here, and we'll continue to do so. And I appreciate the comments made by council as well regarding this, because it has been a lot of work. And again, just staff, you've been absolutely incredible with all of this. For me, going through these, I absolutely support, I think, all three. My one concern is that we definitely need to start with First Street East. I think there's broader concerns around public safety and from the business community on First Street West. And I'm almost to the point where I want it to come back to council before we talk about, opening up or closing off First Street West. Let's do one side of the plaza. And I think that they're very different sides. I mean, Sign of the Bear, Araldi's, the Leather Shop, even the Silver Company are kind of more local serving businesses in a lot of ways. And so, they want people who are going to be able to grab and go, park, and get the material and get out of there. And there's some of the longest standing retailers that we have on the plaza too. So I really want to make sure that business community is being outreached. And as we've said, we've only really done outreach on First Street East and on that side of Napa. Regarding the plaza use, that's a temporary solution. I'm not a big fan of public space for private use. It is something that we do in the plaza, kind of typically. If you look at Vintage Festival, Ox Roast, which we used to have, 4th of July, you have a lot of private businesses and artists and things like that using our public space to sell their wares. Those are for festivals, but still kind of private use of public space. But in this case, we really need to help our businesses. This is where a large chunk of our sales tax revenue come. This is where our community works. This is where our locals go to eat dinner and enjoy themselves and have birthdays and things like that. And we want to keep locally owned productive businesses alive as much as we possibly can. And so I'm supportive of doing the use, but the reason I asked the question about how much of the plaza can be used before we hit a limit was just to make sure that, 70% of the space being open to public is really important. And it's great to hear staff's response on that. And I think that's a really key point. As far as what we do going forward, I think I kind of agree with Madeline that, we need to come back before we look at the second year. I'd be comfortable with the request of Brian Laley to push this into 2021 for that small chunk, but I think other things we need to talk about again. For me, I'm fascinated by the idea of doing al fresco kind of outdoor along the restaurant and the sidewalk dining for the foreseeable future. I think that's fantastic. I think it's really, really nice for business. I think it gives us a new feel. But I agree with Councilmember Harrington that we got to make sure that this is kind of, plaza focused, and that grant that you're going for, Mark, is fantastic. I think that's really wonderful that exists. And I appreciate you continue to impress with your ability to find these things and go after them. And so thank you so much for that. But yeah, I just applaud the team. Kathy, David, Mark, Colleen, Lisa Jansen. Everybody's just been an absolute rock. Maureen and Tim, just been absolute rock stars going about this, finding solutions to problems, communicating with businesses, answering all the questions that are had, and really trying to be out there and work as hard as we possibly can for our business community. And I'm couldn't be prouder. And I think we're doing a really good job. I'd love to see the plaza, shut down and walking around. I think that would be really fascinating, but we have to be cognizant of what businesses actually want and what their real desires are, and respecting both kinds of businesses that we have, both retail and restaurant. And then the fact that we don't have a parking lot, a large scale parking lot here in the city of Sonoma. When we're talking about closing First Street East or First Street West, we're talking about 60, 70 parking spaces that we're wiping out. And I think that is a real concern for a lot of people and a legitimate one. So great. If there's no other comments, I'd love to go ahead and go for a roll call vote. We have Kathy, you're muted.
I make a motion to adopt the staff recommendations.
Second.
Just, Mayor Harvey, before there's a national vote, I just want to clarify the resolution that's in front of you in term does not have a timing.
Okay.
In terms of the partial street closure, in particular. So I heard some different perspectives to council. So, and again, we did have a member of the public that asked for it through October 2021. So it would be good for council to be clear about, I guess, in particular, the partial street closure on First Street East, about the duration of that for your direction at this time.
I'm personally fine for 1 and 2 into 2021. I'm not comfortable with number 3 into 2021. I'd like to have a discussion about that in maybe, 2 months or so.
I can make a comment based on the conversation that I heard from the council, that the authority that council would like to give is a 1 weekend, Friday and Saturday evening trial closure of the street east of the Sonoma Plaza. So taking out the west or north as possibilities. So it's just the one street east of the plaza. So I'd like to propose that change to the resolution so that we're all clear on the action that's before council, or that council would support. I can comment also on the October 2021 date, when staff was talking earlier about what date to put on encroachment permits that we were working on issuing, and looking at projections for the pandemic and coronavirus and all that, and knowing that the restaurants, well, that there's good weather some of the year, and then there's not good weather, and then there's good weather. And so we don't anticipate right now that we're going to have a vaccine and that the virus will be gone in the spring. So to provide some certainty to restaurants that are, as Mark mentioned, investing in outside infrastructure, essentially, that it's not just a few months this summer, that we're comfortable as a city with their approval to use our public space through, we had to pick a date, right? October seemed like the time when you starts raining and such, and that's when the virus may be actually behind us. And so that we picked a date as far out as we thought was reasonable to get through not just this summer, but also next spring and summer. And you also know that the permits say, and we can change our mind anytime. So that's where that October date that Ryan mentioned came from.
And it's to the end of October.
No, I think it's October 21st, something like that. It was a particular date that when we talked about it, it seemed like a reasonable time. It was the 21st, middle of the week, so that we would have time to take stuff off the street before the next weekend.
I'd probably just.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. I would rather, to come back. That's over a year.
Even for items 1 and 2?
I'm okay for 1 and 2, but not 3 at this point. I mean,
okay, so I'm sorry, just to make it clear. So 3 is just a 1 weekend, 1 Friday and Saturday night closure of First Street East between Spain and Napa. Try it out, see how it goes. If it goes great, we'll come back to council and ask for more authority. It's just 1 weekend that we're asking council to authorize tonight.
I prefer to go 2 because then we'd have 2 weekends in before our next council meeting, and we could put it back on our council meeting on the 17th.
Yeah.
Let's do 2 weekends, because anytime you do something the first time, you're going to make mistakes, learn from them, and go into the second time. So I'd rather have 2 weekends at least to try it out, and then come back on the 17th to discuss.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, and we can do that as long as council understands that we will have to write our staff report to council after the first weekend, and then report out at the council meeting what happened on the second weekend, because it won't have happened at the time the public agenda gets posted.
Just one other, I think,
we live here, that we're going to receive instant feedback about if it's not.
I'm gonna go down there. You know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be real-time feedback.
Yeah. And just one other thing, I think obviously council's interest, we want to move on this as quickly as possible. But again, maybe it comes back the 17th, maybe it comes back the first meeting in September. Just there are some logistics to put together in this. So, again, staff will continue to keep driving it forward as we have been, but feedback from you could be the first meeting in September.
So what if we, so my kind of thing is I'd like to have as much data as possible when I'm making a decision on the extension. And I'm more comfortable going like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just to add additional time. So this is actually useful. So I don't know where council's at. And if it like really sucks, if it's terrible, we'll pull it out. But for me, then I would say, for the month of August, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or basically until it comes before council again. So I could say August and September, but we'll try to do a council meeting in September to discuss it. But it's 2 months then. But I don't know if people are comfortable with that much time on the street closure.
I think that giving greater flexibility like that would be helpful because it just takes so much time to come back. But I do think one is too few, and the 2 days. I mean, it could even be Thursday through Sunday. Not saying it's going to start there, but what if it's really good on Friday, Saturday, and then the restaurants are like prefer Thursday? So I think flexibility for a period of time, then we come back and we can talk about it.
I support Thursday through Sunday for 2 months.
Which doesn't mean that's what it's going to be. Start small and we will grow is wonderful.
Well, does somebody want to make a new motion?
I'll make a motion with those in because I do agree with Vice Mayor Hunley and Mayor Harvey on that. Because one thing I always tell people is I've been on the council long enough to figure out that if something isn't working, the council isn't tied to anything unless it's been written in stone. And this is definitely something that isn't written in stone. My biggest concern is that there are investments that are being happened by the business community that we want to make sure that they feel comfortable. And I think that they understand because we are working with the chamber and the vintners and growers and the Visitors Bureau. And like Mayor Harvey said, government is doing a key role right now in helping through this whole crisis. So the conversation is there. So yeah, that would be my motion. If Jeff accepts that as a motion.
Is it, just to be clear, are we talking about approved street closures of First Street East through October 2021 plus the Thursday through Sunday for 2 months and the canopies? That's the motion.
And to be
yes, I'm one and two would go to 21, and then look back at this in. I think Vice Mayor Hunley said a couple months we would revisit it. So maybe make it 3 months so there's enough time, but try to get it on in 2 because the rainy season will be coming by then.
And then my other question is, are we approving for First Street East, West, and?
No, just
First Street
I'm making is just for East. I think there's too many issues with the North and the West with retail, and I understand that, of course.
I agree.
I can second that.
Sweet. We have a roll call vote.
And this is a substitute motion, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Hunley,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Agramonte,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Harvey.
Enthusiastic, yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Wonderful. Great. Great work. Super cool. I'm really excited to see how this works out, and I'm super stoked to go down there and a glass of wine and a little dinner out in the streets.
Just wear your mask, Logan.
I'll try. I definitely will.
I know you will.
All right. Good. So we're moving on to council member reports and comments. Do we have any council member reports and comments? I'm seeing no. City manager reports and comments?
Just two briefly, Mayor Logan, Council. So I just want to let Council know that there is a lot of work that's been occurring in the last 4 to 6 weeks on, longer than that, kind of started the end of May on PSPS and planning for that a long time line with COVID. So the county staff's been working on this, city staff's been working with them, PG&E as well. We had approached the county and PG&E about trying to get the school district headquarters in Altamira off the Glen Ellen Dunbar circuit because that caused some real issues because all of the hub for the school district is in their district headquarters. That got done and switched. So they are no longer on the more susceptible Glen Ellen, lack of a better term, electrical hub. So hopefully there will be a little more stability for the schools, which is super important as we're all doing online learning. So we got confirmation that that's got done and appreciate PG&E working with us on that. And I also just wanted to publicly say I did announce my retirement on Friday. It was a very difficult decision to kind of come to. And I want to thank Council for your support in the last 3.5 years. I'm going to be retiring the end of December. And the big impetus is this: I've got 3 teenage kids all in online learning and just really need to shift my focus. My focus has been on the city for the last 3.5 years, and I need to go pay attention to my family. So I did want to just thank the council for the opportunity to serve, and I'm all here and will help council move forward, and we'll get through PSPS and fire season and any of the rest of these efforts that the council is focused on through the end of the year. So that's it, Mayor Harvey. Thank you.
Kathy.
Mayor Harvey.
Right.
Can I add one, just one that I didn't get to Kathy? Just a reminder that we are in the examination period. If anyone's interested in pulling papers for one of the 2 seats, and that period is going to be ending very soon. So if you're interested in doing that, then please do that ASAP. And if you have papers pulled, let me know when we'll be looking for those. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. And thank you, Kathy. I appreciate your comments as well. And we appreciate your service and the great work that you've done for the city of Sonoma for sure. And we look forward to working with you through the end of December for sure. Jeff Walter.
I have no comments.
Sweet. All right, great. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, but we will be going to a closed session. And so I guess we got to go ahead and open up public comment.
Before we open up the closed session, I would like to make an announcement as to why we are going into closed session.
Oh, please do.
Which is required by the Brown Act. We're going to closed session because Vice Mayor Hundley has submitted a statement indicating that the council has violated the Brown Act, and she has asked the council to make a commitment to cease and desist from continuing that activity. And for that reason, we are moving into closed session.
Thank you. All right.
And Mayor, if I may give my statement.
Do we allow that, or is that required? Okay, cool.
Yes, I'm expecting that she will state why she's not going to participate in the closed session.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. As we know, this item is about a letter that I submitted to the city under the whistleblower provision of the Brown Act after waiting for a month for the city to do something, and it did not. And thus I have a conflict under the Political Reform Act, as I am the potential plaintiff in this matter and thus have a financial interest in the outcome due to the cost of litigation.
Okay.
And thus I will recuse myself.
Great.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hundley.
I don't think I have a Zoom invite that's separate. Do we have a second Zoom invite, or?
There will be one, yes.
I sent it earlier right before the meeting to those individuals. If you don't, Amy, text me and I'll send it to you directly.
Okay, thank you.
Before we move into the closed session, though, the public is entitled to speak on this item. If there's anybody from the public wishing to do so, it should do it now.
We'll go ahead and open for public comment. Do we have any written public comment? Seeing that, we'll go ahead and thank you. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and retire to closed session. Thank you.
Hey, can we take a break?
Sure. You want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, that'd
Gonna
be great.
It'll take me a minute to open the other room. So.